the executive director of the Lincoln Arts Council, over the years I've learned that there is so many research studies that talk about how important the arts are to our human lives. And that has been the focus of a lot of our work. For instance, researchers in Philadelphia at the University of Pennsylvania, they determined that if kids are involved in the arts, that it leads to better civic engagement. They learn more, that it affects the poverty rate in a community. Those are really kind of important things to think about and to know as we try as a nonprofit organization in our community to deliver on a promise that we will do great work for our community. So there's those kinds of research studies. There's hospitals across the country that are using the arts in the hospitals for the staff and for the clients, because being involved in arts projects helps the healing process. So I know all of those things, but today when I was asked to speak, I decided I was going to focus on what I know from my heart. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. I was born to my parents, of course, Dick and Maxine Van Horn, back in 1957. And I was so fortunate. I had 3 older brothers who loved me, and I was born into a family of entrepreneurs. So one of the things that I have to say is that I was so influenced by my mother, a wonderful mother, and she had a ceramics business when I was a little child. So I would help her pour carefully these molds that we would then have set. We would take the mold off, and there would be this object. And so I learned about processes and how you start at point A and you get to point Z. And that always involved my dad doing china painting on the ceramics. So I was lucky that I got to learn about the process of working through things at a very early age. My mom used to knit argyle socks, and I remember once saying to her, "Mom, go buy some socks." And, you know, she made them for my father. And, you know, she loved the colors and the putting together of the patterns, and it fed her soul. And so it was a way for my mom to express herself. It was a great source of pride to her. And also then, my mom used her abilities that she had for creativity with her hands to make money, to have income. Being in a family of 6 and we were entrepreneurs, there were times that we didn't have as much money maybe as we needed, but we were never, ever lacking in possibilities and in love and creativity. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful life. As a young girl, I used to pretend that my bedroom was a fabric store. I would take my mother's scarves out of her dresser drawer and wrap them on a piece of cardboard like they were in the fabric store. And most of you won't remember this because you're not as old as I am, but there were these really cool machines at the fabric store that you would run the fabric through, and there would be this little meter on it that would say, Lori, do you remember this? It would say how many yards of fabric you had bought. I made one of those gadgets out of a shoebox. But then my fabric store also included me having a TV show where I taught people how to sew. And so I had these cameras that I made out of cardboard boxes. And I did this. And I did it because I loved my mother. She was a great example to me, my father as well. But I did it because it made me feel great. And I knew that I had prosperity and potential in my life, no matter what the world would say. I have 2 daughters, Hannah and Emily. And my daughter Emily said, "Oh gosh, Mom, please don't talk about us." They're alumni of Wesleyan, so they know about liberal arts education. And Hannah is a scientist in Omaha for UNMC, and she's also a metalsmith. And she tells me that she could not make it through work if she didn't have something creative that she could do as well. Emily is a nurse, and she also loves to sew and to create things. And I was talking to her, asked her the question, why do you do that? And she said, Mom, it helps me have balance in my life. And I thought, oh boy, you know, it's pretty cool that I get to learn from my 2 young daughters and see once again the things that my mom told me and taught me through example. They were both also musicians. While attending the Lincoln Public Schools, it was pointed out by one of the leaders there that it would be good for them to be in music because actually they didn't always fit very well into the classroom. They were both learning disabled, but they could play music. And so we've always had art in our lives. So art is really just a part of my being. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because as women, I would love to encourage each of us, and the men present too, that if we can honor the creative seed within ourselves, that it actually does help us to be authentic. And when we can all be authentically who we are, then think of the way that the world will be. Because instead of trying to be someone else that you hope that they like, people will like you because you are being you.